good, y'all? This is M80. Just want to shed light to the world on the whole Horsemen situation, and just so it's not misconstrued from the beginning, respect for everyone that's part of the Horsemen. Canibus, Priest, Kurupt, Razcast, like, everyone's an LMC in their own right. So, don't get it twisted and think like we're shitting on anyone. Like, it is what it is. If the record's gonna happen, it would happen. If the record's not gonna happen, it's just a nice thought that would have been something great for hip hop. But so everyone understands like the origins of where I'm coming from. It was around 2009. You've seen the video, it was on World Star and All Hip Hop and all that stuff, where I had met Kurupt, and Kurupt and I had never met until that point in time, and really got to talking to him about the Horsemen project and my work with Canibus, and how I came up in music, with Priest and with Wu-Tang, and Kurupt was just blown away. Like, it's one person that's almost connected to everyone in the group that really understands the business of the music and could build with everyone to put the record together. So that brought Kurupt and I really close, and we were on the phone frequently, putting kind of the business model together for what we're going to do with the album. Getting Canibus on board, Priest on board, Razy on board, and everything was good. And again, this is around like 2009. We spent a couple months, putting the plan together. Kurupt, his label Pentagon, that I'm an A&R for, they had the distribution deal with Fontana Universal, so we had locked-in distribution already for the record, and it was really just about making the album, a good actual debut representation for the Horsemen outside of the first project that had leaked, in 2002, 2003 through Think Differently. So everything was set up business-wise with Kurupt's side of things, and Raz was really vocal about, wanting to kind of be the project leader. And we didn't have any problem with that. Raz was extremely gung-ho about it from very early on. So now, again, it's just about putting the business plan together. So we reached out to some investors. No one was really into just getting into the recordings and spending money in their own time in light of what everyone else already had going on. Kurupt was working on Streetlights. Later on, we'd be working on the Academy album together. Canibus was just coming off of Sea of Tranquility, working on Lyrical Law and Rip the Jacket to Infinity. Priest, for the past couple of years, has been working on Psychic World of Walter Reed, and Raz had just dropped the Adidas project. So everyone is busy in their own right, and everyone's always been solo artists, so you can't really tell someone not to have their own personal interests at heart. You got to do what you got to do. So we spend this time looking for investors, putting this business model together, and man, Raz's vision for the album and everyone's compliance was just a beautiful thing. Like, we were looking at getting beats from Premier, and even a track from Just Blaze and a track from Dre. RZA was definitely on board to executive produce the record. We even went outside the box. Raz was real gung-ho about, locking in like a certain rock element to the album that everyone fell in love with, reaching out to Travis Barker, Amy Lee of Evanescence. Man, I know I'm missing, a few, but, MCs like Rakim and G-Rap and Snoop and Chino XL and Pharoah Monch, like every, basically what people wanted to hear, and of course the track was Slaughterhouse. That would have been huge for the album. I come up with an investor. We're looking at putting like 80 grand into the making of the record, the marketing, the promotion, some tour support, all this stuff, and everyone's on board for it. It's enough to get the album made and make everyone happy, and then reap the benefits later. We're all getting ready to fly out to Los Angeles to start recording. Then out of nowhere, Raz comes up with an investor like, yo, my investor's going to kick like $120,000. So see if we can put both of them together. Like, well, that's not going to happen. No one, 200 grand is way too much to put into the record. There'd be no possible way to recoup, especially, in today's music climate. So it's like, my investor, when I reach out to them about doing the record together, just wasn't interested, so they step off, even though the investor had already paid for like me and Canibus to go out there in LA and start working on these records and some other, upfront expenses and stuff like that. And we get out there, we knock out 2-3 tracks, the single Impossible you probably hear in the back. Shit was crazy. A track called Revelation, promising thing. But again, this is 2009. You know, after that trip, everyone kind of parted ways. And then, of course, months and months go by, and we never hear any word about, you know, Raz's investor with the 120,000. And I can't go back and reach out to my guy that was willing to put up the 80 grand, like it was a done, you know, a dead deal at that point. Raz continued to put references together to the record, and you know, during that time, just with everyone doing their own solo shit and a multitude of things, like, you know, no one's real, I guess, goal or focus was on the Horsemen record. You know, Kurupt's on the road year round with Snoop. You know, like I said, Biss has been putting out his records, and it's like during that whole time too, you had the little words back and forth between Wu-Tang and Slaughterhouse, and it's like, okay, I'm Wu-Tang family first and foremost, so it's like, you know, where my heart's at with all that. And even before that, like when we were doing the Undergods record with Sound Records, you know, they were interested in signing Slaughterhouse. I told them to do it. I told them 50K up front would probably seal that deal. To put 10 grand in each of their pockets up front, give about 10 grand for management. You know, and hell, that would have been huge for everyone. If you look back on, you know, certainly Hip Hop DX and news sites like Slaughterhouse news site, Crooked Eye website, M80's listed as the first project A&R, and that didn't come together. But you know, the shit with Buttons and Meth and Raekwon and all that, that's one thing. And then you got, you know, kind of the sideways talk between Canibus and Buttons and Royce. That's when, you know, really soiled things. And, you know, Canibus releases the Airstuck track off Melatonin Magic, and even though no one, you know, opinion was needed, Raz felt the need to kind of speak out about, you know, well, I fuck with Canibus and I fuck with Eminem, so, you know, it's all good, dude. At the end of the day, it's music and it's entertainment, and Canibus has never been the kind of artist that sought anyone else's approval. The guy does what he wants to do, and he's a lyrical genius, so it's like his fans are going to stick with him through thick and thin, whether the moves he makes they feel are wrong or right. You know, Kurupt, no one ever wanted it with Kurupt, like, period, in music. Like, that's just that. Like, Kurupt shut shit down, so he was always kind of looked at as the peacemaker, making sure that whatever Horseman efforts stayed on track, and we were able to do what we could do. You know, Priest was always down to ride with Canibus. You know, Canibus never needed anyone to have his back on anything. It was just about making good music. And like I said, the Horseman album would have been something great for hip-hop, period. So, you know, with all that shit thick and thin, like, you know, the business deal with the investors, that shit went sour. We never all regrouped in LA to continue making more records. You know, we had about 4 or 5 probably completed references, you know, that I had a hand in all of them. Like, you know, Raz picked the beat on this shit right here. We made sure all the MCs hopped on and did their thing. You know, Impossible, again, Raz picked the track. We all go to LA, everyone bombs it. That single was amazing. So we were on a continual hot streak to that point in time. Like, so hopefully, you know, the most we can hope for, I guess, at this point is that you'll hear whatever references were finished on certain solo albums, like on the Second World of Walter Reed by Priest, you know, further Razcast records, maybe the next Kurupt project, hopefully, you know, on another Canibus record. But, you know, ultimately hip-hop loses out by not having this completed Horseman album. And it's kind of a strike against me because I've been able to deliver on every record that I ever said I was going to be able to deliver on. So, you know, to the hip-hop heads, like, you know, stay tuned to what M80's got in store for you. Much love to Raz, Priest, Canibus, Kurupt, and it is what it is. One.